Good morning, everybody. Sorry we had a little technical difficulties this morning. Welcome to Conversations with Anasa. So happy to see everybody. Hmm. So let's start with meditation. So take your attention inside, bring it down below the belly button, and visualize that there's like a funnel below your brain, just draining all the energy out from between your ears down below your belly button. And feel that in Chinese medicine, they call it a cauldron. Feel that cauldron just filling with energy, allowing yourself to come into a calm, centered place in your body. This center below your belly button is the sort of athletic center. If you remember when you were a kid, if you did any sports, you'd slightly bend your knees and hold this balanced place, ready to move in any direction. So as you feel into this spot, let it expand back so you can release anything you're holding in your low back. And then gently allow your energy to travel down through your tailbone to the center of the earth. Doesn't matter how far you can go, just go as far as you can and trust that the connection is being made. And when you're ready, gently take your attention up to your solar plexus. For most of us, this is a sometimes a place of tightness. So if you feel any tightness there, just breathe into it and see if you can get it to release with your breath. When you're ready, allow your attention to move up to your heart center. And feel that softening. Feel into your throat center. And then up to your third eye. And you may naturally begin to feel the flow of the, small celestial circle, where you're feeling the energy down the front of your back. Down the front of your body and up the back of your body. And then there's a bigger, slightly more dimensional flow that goes up and down in the central channel, both at the same time, and around the body in 360 degrees. Both of those become available, and they're not really separate, but they can be experienced in different layers. Now, as you're feeling that connection, gently allow yourself to be in two places at once as you allow your eyes to slowly, at your own pace, open. We're so happy to be with you this morning. Mm.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. I just wanted to thank you for that beautiful meditation. I've never thought about my low back holding tension. Oh, excuse me, and I always have a lot of tension there. And so when I breathed into it this morning, it released immediately. It was so
Mm.
wonderful. So thank you
How
for that.
beautiful.
I just have never thought of that. I don't know why, but thank you.
You're so welcome. Yeah, it's interesting. We can be doing something for so long, and then suddenly it just like, oh, that's what it is. That will happen. I'm so happy to hear that. Delighted.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mhm. We've had a very interesting week with the NAS. I'm almost hesitant to share it because it's such good news. But I've been doing a lot of recovered memory work in therapy for a couple of years with my childhood. And last week, I came to a place where I realized that it was just torture and that I was done being tortured. And I, 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 the guides came in. It was kind of lucid dreaming and said, this is the end of the torture. There's no reason to do any more of this because it's not going to change. That's just what happened. And um and there was this experience of total emptiness, like, everything is just chaos anyway. And it was just very raw and empty. And then that night, I was getting ready to go to sleep, and there's a tonka in front of the bed of the Buddha that's over my head. It's a much smaller version of that, but across the room on the wall. And I was staring at that tonka as I was getting ready to sleep, and suddenly the Buddha kind of became animated, and said, "Are you ready to experience God's love?" And I said, "Of course," in my inside voice, very loudly. And that whole night was an experience of waves and waves of love. And at the same time, there was this rising up of doubt in me, like periodically, and then more waves of love, and the doubt would just wash away and it would come up again. It was like this, river or ocean. It was this body of water that was washing away the doubt and bringing in the love. And that process was kind of going on. And the only thing that was active was I would actively choose the love in each wave of doubt. And so that happened for the whole night, and I woke up the next morning and I had been so empty when I laid down to sleep. There was like no thought. I was just like exhausted, empty. And in the morning I was full. And then the next night it was peace. I laid down to sleep and suddenly there was like, okay, it's time for peace. You need to actually experience what it is to be at peace. So I was, well, okay. This was clearly a NASA. And then last night was the third night. This all started with the equinox. Last night was the third night, and it was happiness. It was just this, you could almost say mundane, because it wasn't joy. It wasn't like ecstasy. It wasn't over the top. It was just happy. Just, plain old regular happy. And so this has been happening, and it's like a miracle. It's really a miracle. And yes, I've been working for decades, not really knowing what I was working for exactly. But this is it. It's the capacity to choose, recognizing, first of all, that we have the capacity to stop torturing ourselves with whatever, and that we get to choose. We get to choose. We always have the choice of our state. And hopefully you don't have to wait as long as I did to make that choice. I'm just telling you my lived through experience of it. And this clear, very clear experience that, there's nothing more to be known about the past. And torture is not a viable option. And so, time to choose something different. But there was this, I have to really know what happened to heal it all. That if you don't know about it, you can't heal it. And there is a certain validity to exploring our shadow. That has to be done. And clearly our inner knows when that's complete. That's what this is showing. There's a time when our inner just speaks up and says, okay, enough already. No more torture. So I just thought I'd share it. You know, I tend to share all the difficult stuff, but I don't know why it's harder for me to share the beauty of what is given.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so beautiful. Now, does this mean you'll give up therapy?
I don't know what it means. I don't
Yeah.
know what it means. Uh, because clearly it means that I will do therapy in a different way.
Mhm.
And probably that it's toward the end, yes. But it doesn't mean that I'll just never abruptly go back, because that's not completion either. Completion is everybody feels complete in the experience. So I don't know. But
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
thank you. But the real message is the torture is over. How the icing goes on the cake is not really that that important. You know, the internal decision has been made that's done. And that is really what shadow work is about. And so here's how I think about every ending, actually. I mean, that's a good question. That it's always, as much as we can, important to be going towards something rather than away from something. So, you know, completion is when everybody feels that the highest best has arrived. And, you know, that doesn't always happen, but we can try. And especially, I think, when other people have been helping, you know, it's important to be completely respectful of that and treat it tenderly with respect. So that's kind of a big answer. You notice I didn't say that I need validation because that comes from the inside. That has come. And that's really the point, that validation comes from the inside, not from the outside. The kind of validation we can really rest on is an internal experience. And I can't exactly tell you what the equinox has to do with it. Uh, I haven't studied the chart of that day to see how it really impacts me. I don't know, but I will because that was kind of a profound shift that happened. I didn't note the exact time, but it was probably sometime between 10 and 11. But it's interesting because Western astrology really makes a big deal out of the equinox. Not so much. I mean, that's the calendar that they go by. Vedic astrology, they say, oh, it's the equinox, and that's about it. You know, the eclipses and things are much more important in Vedic astrology. Speaking of which, there's a big solar eclipse on the 29th. And as we said earlier, there's a lot of emotional dysregulation between now and then. And there probably will be more scandalous events on the political landscape. Something remarkable either the day before, day of, or day after. Of course, we have remarkable things every day. Yeah. But the people are rising up. I think they had 23,000 people in at one of the rallies yesterday where Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez have been speaking. So that's pretty big. 23,000 people. I think it was in Arizona, in Tucson, Arizona. That's where it was. 23,000 people. And Tucson isn't, as big as Phoenix. So, and it's a red state or a purple. I don't know. Arizona goes whatever way it feels like it. So there's that. So what else is up this morning? I have to tell you, next week we're going to be on retreat in Ashland for the weekend. So there won't be a class, but there will be a class the following week, which I don't know the date, but it will be April. Maybe April 6th, is that right? Nancy?
It looks like it'll be on the 30th of this month.
That's when I'll be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, oh, I see in the next, hold on, the 6th. Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay, so we'll be back April 6th.
Okay, good. Thank you.
We'll be in town before that. We'll be back on Tuesday, but we'll be gone Friday to Tuesday. Feeling a lot of gratitude for just this moment. The real thing is that this moment is the only one we have. This moment. And, we're all relatively healthy, happy, peaceful, abundant in this moment. And anything we do that sacrifices that is a sacrifice to some past or future event that we're either reacting to or anticipating. And so just being present in this moment, knowing that this is the now, the be here now. And we're finding that taking our energy out of the space between our ears is very important in being able to have a different experience of ourselves. And the gut brain is real. Many of the neurotransmitters that we depend on are actually formed in the gut. And so when we take our attention there, something important happens as we participate in that creative process. The brain is actually fat, and it's probably where information is stored, not where information is created. So the more we take our attention into our belly, our low belly, the more we are able to access pure creative energy. And possibly the more we're able to live from a more creative place in ourselves where we are relying much more on intuition and much less on logic. Logic limits us to three-dimensional reality. Love is not a three-dimensional concept. And the visceral experience of that energy is also not three-dimensional. So it's very interesting that in coming deeper into our physicality, we actually experience ourselves as multidimensional. Not from leaving, but from becoming. As we said, it's not going away from anything. It's becoming more of what we already are. We don't need to astral travel to find God. What we need is to be content within ourselves so that can find us and say, hey, stop torturing yourself. It's all right here. What else? So we'll talk a little bit more about the astrology since nothing else, because it's kind of interesting because it's unprecedented. By the time the eclipse happens on the 29th, which I guess is Saturday. And by the way, the weekend is the best time. This weekend is a really good time to be on retreat yourselves, to just be quiet and not really participate because it's going to be crazy. And so just be quiet and let it pass. Don't react to any of it. It's all going to change. And that may be easier said than done. It's a time of enormous change. So by the time that happens, there will be 6 planets in Pisces. And then the next thing that will happen is that the 13th or 14th, it depends on where we're located. And I think for us, it's definitely on the 14th. But we'll feel it coming. And this is a conjunction between Saturn and Rahu. And Saturn is the planet of obstruction, delay, karma that will be delivered, and in general, heaviness. And it can be unhappiness, but it's considered a first-class malefic, which doesn't really mean bad. It just means intense. And Rahu, of course, is the demon that is insatiable desire. And so when Saturn and Rahu get together, they're two very, very intense malefic energies, one which has the intention of greed, insatiable greed, and whatever Rahu wants, how he gets it is not important. So it's demon greed. We'll get it however we can. So lying, cheating, and destroying is all part of the game for Rahu. So Rahu and Saturn are meeting, and Saturn is the planet of, discipline and responsibility and duty, and the planet of democracy. And so the two of them are meeting in the sky. And of course, they go in opposite directions. So they get within a degree of each other, I think on the 12th or so. They hit the exact same degree on the 15th, and then they begin to separate, going in opposite directions. And so but they both move very slowly. So it takes, I think, till the 23rd or 24th, I'll have to look again, before they're a degree apart, because they both move so slowly. It takes Saturn 2.5 years to go through a sign, and it takes Rahu 18 months, 1.5. So they're both going relatively slowly. So that's a pretty intense conjunction. And because it happens so slowly, there's this feeling of, pressure coming in with more and more intensity and then gradually leaving. So the most intense time is the middle of May. And so it's bound to make us very turbulent in that time. And the key in these turbulent places, the 29th and the 15th, 13th through the 15th, the key is to remain steady and not do anything impulsive. And we'll say, especially involving finances, because Pisces, no matter where it is in your chart, in the natural astrology, Pisces is the 12th house of loss, and it can be a big house of debts and expenses. And so it's easy to make financial mistakes in this particular time period. So don't do anything financial that has any big implications between now and maybe June if we can avoid it. But April 15th is when things start to really change for the better. I mean, May 15th. Is that what we said? We meant to say May 15th, yeah. May 15th is when Jupiter moves from Taurus into Gemini. Now, right now, we talked about this last time, there is an exchange of energy between Jupiter and Venus because of where they're located, which means basically that Jupiter and Venus, the planet of love and the planet of wisdom, are communicating. Venus is going backwards, which means it can mean an old romance might show up, or some kind of relationship with a loved one that was going sort of sour may come back in a different way. And this can be, with family members as well, people that were, blood related close to. It's hard to say, but wisdom and love are interacting at this point in a really nice way for most of us. And I say for most of us because there are planetary configurations in which it doesn't behave so well, but there are less of those than there are of the ones that behave very well. So it should be good for most everybody. But this is the problem with astrology. What's good for one person isn't so good for another. And so and we all have completely unique horoscopes in addition to everything else. Even if we're born 2 days apart, it's still some things are different. The ascendant's going to be different and the moon will be different. How may we serve further? Yes.
Well, I just have a question on that last bit of information. The Jupiter and Venus are communicating, and when was that timeline? I kind of lost it.
Well, Jupiter is in Taurus, and that will change on May 15th. And Venus is in Pisces, and so Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. And so when you have these two planets, it's exchange of rulers, because Jupiter's in Venus's sign and Venus is in Jupiter's sign. And when that happens, there's a very fruitful communication between two benefics. And so, but there are certain circumstances, depending on the houses in your chart, if Jupiter's in your third house, which it is in mine, then it's not such a fruitful communication. And that's complicated why that's true, but for most people, it's a really beneficial thing. And the planets are so unweighted in the sky because there's so many in Pisces that
Oh,
it makes it beneficial for just about everybody, because even there's so much weight in that house that having the benefics there is really helpful.
mm,
Now, Mercury is there also, and Mercury is debilitated in Pisces because Pisces is a water sign that's not at all about rational mind. And so it's the most complicated place for Mercury to be because the rational mind doesn't work in Pisces.
okay.
And and it's also Mercury retrograde, so that's why there's all kinds of communication problems. If you notice, everything's having to be done and undone and done and undone.
Yeah.
And that has everything to do with Mercury.
All right. Okay.
So
Oh,
it's like that's the demonstration of Mercury retrograde and what it does when it's gone bad, gone berserk, which is what happens when Mercury goes retrograde in its sign of debilitation.
well, it's just a reminder to don't grab on to anything in particular,
Yes,
to get
and we'll
yourself
say it again,
stirred up about.
especially with finances, don't do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't do anything.
Okay.
Not a time to make financial decisions.
Okay.
Hold steady.
Thank you. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. And think about, 23,000 people in Tucson coming out to hear Bernie Sanders and OAC. That makes me really happy. Because that is the people rising up, and we just have to continue to do it. We have to ride that wave, make that wave bigger until it washes away this dictator.
Well, we are certainly in some interesting times. That is,
Yes, we are.
and it's just, yeah,
Yeah,
over the top
yeah. And
continually.
the other thing I read in the last couple days is that to protect Social Security, you need to go online and make sure you have an ID me uh, link. There's like a double link that's been available, a double identity that's uh, uh, a double identity proof way to get into Social Security, that if you haven't been online with Social Security in the last 6 months, it's probably a good idea, because if you haven't done that by the 31st of March or the 30th of March, I don't think they're 31 days in March. Anyway, if you haven't done it by the end of the month, then you'll have to do it in person.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So it's you have to go in and verify your identity. And if you've been in the last 6 months, you've already done it. If you haven't, and if you need to go to a Social Security office, go now before the first of the month. None of them are going to close before the first of the month.
Oh, okay. That's important. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been paying attention because it matters.
Yeah, that matters for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for those pieces of practical advice.
Oh, yeah. And if you have any questions about it and they come up later, just, email me or text me.
Yeah, I've been tempted also to move things around financially, but I've
Don't
listened to
do
you
it.
and don't do it. Okay, I'm not gonna do it. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I also wanted to just thank you so much for everything is so it's pertinent and right on for me that you've said so far. You already answered any question that I had. Uh, but yeah, I've had a recent pretty big upheaval with a very long-term friend where I found myself needing to establish a boundary. And it didn't go over well, let's just say. Yeah. And and so I was feeling kind of the loss of that friendship, but it if it's I mean, like they used to say in the 60s, if it leaves, but it was supposed to be there, it'll come back. It's just kind of,
Exactly. And these things, they may just be reforming to come back in another way, or they're creating space so something better can come in. One of those two things is happening.
yes, yes. I
And
mean, I feel
so,
like an up level was needed,
yes,
and it
yeah.
just happened,
And
that,
either the person will be able to come along or they can't.
yeah,
And that's not up to you to decide. But setting a boundary was appropriate. We
yeah,
see it.
yeah.
Yeah, we have to do it because we can't allow our energy to be unconsciously vampired by other people. Whether they're doing it on purpose or not doesn't really matter. It's our experience. And sometimes we need to just pull our energy away and not actually say anything. And other times we have to actively disconnect for a bit.
Yeah, it was kind of a long time coming. So it was a little more intense than it needed to be for the specific trigger. Yeah.
Right. Well, it takes us a while to figure it out sometimes too. Something that looks really good can turn into. I mean, none of us wants to be lonely. And it feels like that's the choice you're making, but not true. That's an illusion, temporary. It's creating a space that will be filled. You can even feel it coming.
Yes. Yes.
That's the ticket, is just to know that it will be filled.
Yeah, it's that feel that is this a wonderful feeling of something good is coming. And at the exact
Yes.
same time, there's a feeling of loss.
Well, it's grief. Yeah. Change is hard. And you know, it's fine to grieve. It's appropriate, and it's important to do it at the right time. So you can feel that, but you can also be aware of the space that's been created to attract something much finer. And either that person will come up to be that finer, or someone else will come in. But you can be confident that that vacuum, you can allow it to be filled consciously the next time. And that'll be a new learning, whether it's the same person or not. Because the multiverse is always working with whatever it has to provide us with the next upgrade. It's we who, don't want to let go, or usually it's not wanting to let go, don't want to change. Change is hard. And part of what happens to us when the energy is so misaligned in the sky, when it's all concentrated in certain areas, is that those areas get a lot of focus. So wherever that is in our chart, it's going to be up. You know, for me, it's in the first house of identity. So my identity is changing on a daily basis because there's just so much activity there. Yes.
Yeah, this midweek I had to call out or at least speak into my ex-brother-in-law, and because I'm learning to not compromise myself. It's really, really important to me to notice, even if it's subtle, that I didn't speak into that, or he wasn't, I just kind of explained to him I needed to speak what I was speaking as I was talking about what was going on with me. And he started redirecting and just kind of, I shouldn't let this or that happen. I just, so I just told him I had to speak into that. And I needed to just be myself and didn't want to compromise myself. And so he was very good about that and didn't want to make me feel uncomfortable. I just said, well, I'm having to do it for me, so thank you. We're good.
Well, you have no idea what impact that had, because that's probably the first time in your entire interaction with him
I
that
think
you've
so.
actually said in your outside voice what you've been thinking on your inside voice for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and he had no idea
No. But
because he's not introspective at all.
uh-huh.
But for you to demonstrate
Yeah.
a kind of social integrity,
Mm-hmm.
it caught his attention.
It I believe it did, and I'm working with my therapist for that to be on the plate for me.
Well, the thing that you did that's really beautiful is it was done, excuse me, it was done without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
It was completely, this is just for me and I don't give a shit what you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you didn't say that in your
Right.
outside voice,
Right.
but
Right.
this is what you demonstrated. It was a kind of personal integrity that women almost never.
Well, I know, and I'm really honing in so much better with that. I've had been stepping back, and I am just not willing to do that anymore. It can be very subtle, but I'm needing to take care of myself, and I'm so glad. It's a nice new power to have on board for
Yes,
myself.
it's really, really wonderful. And to not be afraid to speak.
I know.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is like giving yourself permission to
Yeah.
say all the things you've been thinking for decades
Yes. And
and not saying in your outside voice.
yeah, and going through my mother's death when I was young, and how all completely she compromised herself. And I'm kind of going back into since my um, stepmother is passing away right now.
Right?
I'm doing some work with my mother and what I didn't feel at the time because I was so young. And I'm working with my therapist on this, and she really didn't have a very good sense of self and wasn't there for me in a lot of ways. From her grandmother, it's the ancestral passing down with
Yes.
with the religion and grandmother that strapped her breast down and all that business. So I
Oh,
didn't get much, uh, you know, of that growing up. so
yeah,
so
yeah.
anyway, it's all been happening. It's been such a wild week, and I must say, I too. Well, you had a different experience, but I felt a sense of calm this morning in all of this, just in bed and sleeping, and just I just went, oh my gosh, it's like something shifted. So anyway, thought I'd share that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's really,
It's
really wonderful.
important. It's really important. Yeah,
Yes, it is.
it is.
It's this self-empowerment that we give ourselves, that we allow ourselves to
Yes.
be whole,
Yes.
to demand our place in relationships with the men in our lineage.
Right. Yeah. So thank you for listening.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, we want to make a shout out to Brenda and her friend Karen, who recently moved to a new house in St. John's. And so we're working partially remotely to bring you the program this morning. And we just we just want to wish them well and let you know that this is going on and it's really, really beautiful. And we want to wish them every happiness in their new home and express our gratitude for Brenda's continuing to support Anasa as she has done for the last, let me see, Anasa's been up and running since 2017. And so it's been a long time, 8 years.
Thank you, Brenda.
Mm. What else this morning? Yeah, I've never known you to be speechless, so. Her mic isn't working in case you didn't read the chat.
I want to say that this morning has been so wonderful because it sounds like so many good things are happening to several of us, all of us. And it's encouraging because the world does not look very encouraging at this moment. So I'm happy our little pod is in a good way. Congratulations, everybody.
Yes, we agree. Mhm. Yeah, I've always felt like when they tell you you have a good chart for spiritual growth, it means that nothing is going to happen in the world for your life. And, and so it's going to push you all inside, and you will discover what you're made of and how amazing that is. What a gift.
I'm so grateful for this group and for you and Anasa. You have been just a rock for me. And thank you, thank you. Such
We are so
inspiration.
grateful to you. Without your participation, everyone on this call,
Oh,
we wouldn't be able to do anything.
I know, it's wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank
And
you.
it's the size it's supposed to be. You know, if that's supposed to change, it'll happen. And if it doesn't, that's also fine.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's not up to me.
Right.
Hmm. So we welcome any other input, or we'll go into meditation. It's up to you. Well, we love meditating, so let's go back into it. So happy to be with you. So I've just been told to share with you two mantras for the upcoming Saturn Rahu conjunction. And one is for Saturn. And it's very simple. I'm going to sing the tune myself, so it'll be on the recording, which Brenda will put up at some point in the not too distant future. So the one for Saturn goes, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. So my guess is just about everybody's heard that before, and I'll sing it one more time. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And then the other one is just a spoken mantra to the goddess Durga. And Durga can overpower Rahu. This is why we worship Durga. She is the goddess that reigns in Rahu. So it's Om Doom Durgaye Namaha. 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 And we recommend that you say each of these 108 times. And you can count Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. And that's 8 times already. So you can see those will go by fairly fast. And the same with Om Doom Durgaye Namaha. 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 It will go quickly. But if you say these two mantras 108 times, that's the length of a mala, and it's a sacred number, 108. If you do that every day, it will be helpful in this coming turbulence. So I was told to give you those, and I think they'll be helpful. You can feel already it's kind of changed the atmosphere a little bit. And that's what mantras are for. They're to change our inner atmosphere so that we are prepared for whatever is coming toward us. And that's the value of astrology, is knowing what's coming so we don't take it so personally. You know, it's not our fault. It's just that we're alive at this time, and so this is what's up. It's an interesting time. So we just want to thank you for coming. We've totally enjoyed being with you. It's completely wonderful. So much love to you all. Till next week. Well, no, 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay. You take care. Bye for now.